Memories like the corners of my mind, misty watercolor memories of the way we were.
Memories in Music. Each week, a guest retraces the stepping stones of their life through the memories associated with songs. It's presented by Bernie Quayle.
My guest on Memories in Music today is a well-known voice on Manx Radio. He's a well-known voice in theatres and halls all over the Isle of Man. Fine baritone voice of Geoff Corkish. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and nice to see you again, Bernie.
As a singer, you are classed as a baritone, aren't you?
Well, I suppose bass baritone may probably be...
it's a lovely, rich
depends
voice.
On the weather these days, because you don't get enough chance to practice. Well, I'm not disciplined enough to practice, should I say.
Geoff, it's nice to know that you and I share one thing in common, a very early music teacher, Mr. Holroyd.
Yes, he was an awfully nice man. I don't know why I was called Hitler, I don't know, but he was a nice man, gentleman. Always wore a green tweed suit, if I remember, and brown suede shoes. And he walked slightly funny, but he was he had his own make of walk, if you like, but an awfully nice man.
Well, Geoff, the purpose of this program is to look at musical memories that if you heard a piece of music, it would bring you back to a particular point in your life. And we're looking at your earlier life. You're 11, 12, you just started Ballacameen. And your first choice of music is Gilbert and Sullivan. Did Mr. Holroyd introduce him to you?
He did, actually, because music lessons those days are pretty sparse.
Yes.
You know, today I look at my children, how they were educated. There was all kinds of musical bits and pieces at schools. Wonderful education. We had a music master called Sexy Sykes at one time. People may remember Sexy Sykes. And his forte, of course, was the recorder.
Oh, yes.
And I tried to learn that and could knock a tune out now and again, but I'm afraid I've never liked the recorder since. But Mr. Holroyd took us, and his idea of a music lesson was to sit and listen to a recording. And he must have been fond of Gilbert and Sullivan, because the first recording that I remember was Gilbert and Sullivan, and it was the Pirates of Penzance. Wonderful, wonderful music, and it was a revelation to me. I would be then, what age, 11, 12. And he would take us religious instruction as well. And I often wondered whether he thought there was a religious connection between Gilbert and Sullivan and religious instruction. Although Arthur Sullivan, of course, wrote a lot of sacred music as well as the Gilbert and Sullivan.
I didn't know that.
Well, for instance, he wrote the music for the hymn tune "All My Christian Soldiers," St. Gertrude.
Wow.
And another harvest hymn he wrote. He wrote some lovely part songs, which were semi-religious nature.
Yeah.
So yes, I suppose there was a connection there between Gilbert and Sullivan and Sir Arthur Sullivan.
Do you perform Gilbert and Sullivan?
I don't now, but at one time when I was growing up, I joined a choir, a male voice choir, London male voice choir, whose conductor was Dougie Buxton. And all the choirs at that particular time would be singing pieces from Gilbert and Sullivan as part of a concert repertoire. And we would sing wonderful bits from the Pirates of Penzance and from HMS Pinafore. From the Pirates we would sing "A Policeman's Lot Is Not an Happy One." Poor Wandering One we would join with the ladies of the Lonvain, he was also conductor of, and we would have wonderful concerts and wonderful fun. There were wonderful characters involved in these choirs. Still are wonderful characters in choirs, but great fun, changing words sometimes, much to Dougie Buxton's distress.
So which of all the Gilbert and Sullivan pieces will bring you back to age 11?
Well, it would be a Gilbert and Sullivan, obviously, and that piece was from HMS Pinafore, which later on in life I was asked to sing down at King William's College in full doily cart costume. And the title of the piece from HMS Pinafore was "When I Was a Lad, I Served a Term as Office Boy to an Attorney's Firm."
When I was a lad, I served a term as office boy to an attorney's firm. I cleaned the windows and I swept the floor, and I polished up the handle of the big front door. I polished up that handle so carefully that now I am the ruler of the Queen's Navy. Polished up that handle so carefully that now he is the ruler of the Queen's Navy. As office boy, I made such a mark that they gave me the post of a junior clerk. I served the writs with a smile so bland, and I copied all the letters in a big round hand. He copied all the letters in a big round hand. I copied all the letters in a hand so free that now I am the ruler of the Queen's Navy. He copied all the letters in a hand so free that now he is the ruler of the Queen's Navy. In serving writs I made such a name that an articled clerk I soon became. I wore clean collars and a brand new suit for the pass examination at the Institute. That pass examination did so well for me that now I am the ruler of the Queen's Navy. That pass examination did so well for me that now he is the ruler of the Queen's Navy. Of legal knowledge I acquired such a grip that they took me into the partnership, and that junior partnership, I ween, was the only ship I ever had seen. Was the only ship we ever had seen. But that kind of ship so suited me that now I am the ruler of the Queen's Navy. But that kind of ship so suited me that now he is the ruler of the Queen's Navy. I grew so rich that I was sent by a pocket borough into Parliament. I always voted at my party's call. I never thought of thinking for myself at all. He never thought of thinking for himself at all. I thought so little, they rewarded me by making me the ruler of the Queen's Navy. He thought so little, they rewarded me by making him the ruler of the Queen's Navy. Now, landsmen all, whoever you may be, if you want to rise to the top of the tree, if your soul isn't fettered to an office stool, be careful to be guided by this golden rule. Be careful to be guided by this golden rule. Stick close to your desks and never go to sea, and you all may be rulers of the Queen's Navy. Stick close to your desks and never go to sea, and you all may be rulers of the Queen's Navy.
I love Gilbert and Sullivan, and you've got to have a very special talent to be able to sing so quickly and have the diction just right, haven't you?
And I think most importantly, a sense of humour.
Yes.
It was a wonderful marriage of words and music by the two of them. And that was poking fun, of course, at the big man who was in charge of the Royal Navy. And I think, history was that at some point there was a chap who was pretty hopeless at the job anyway.
Well, you served your time. You've been with the steam packet ever since leaving school, haven't you?
I have, yes.
You've served a term and a half.
Well, it was a job I was attracted to the company and still am. I still have that fascination with the company that is very much an integral part of the infrastructure of the Isle of Man.
Right. Now, there is in the next choice of music, again, a bit of a nautical theme. Tell me why.
Well, brass bands have always played a part in my life. I've never played in a brass band. I cannot play a musical instrument. But brass bands always played a part in my life, still do, as compere, guest soloist, etc. And my earliest recollections of a brass band would be at the Douglas Carnival. Douglas Carnival at one time was a fantastic night.
Yes.
It was a night to look forward to.
Yeah.
And with my brothers and parents, we would go down to the promenade, usually around by Broadway, I don't know why, around Broadway area. And the anticipation of the carnival parade coming towards you was heightened by the sound of the brass band. And you could hear somebody thumping away at the bass drum. And that was a chap called Hunter.
Yeah.
He lived in Pulrose, I forget his first name. He was very, very proud. And the band would get closer and closer and closer. It was always Douglas Town Band led the parade. Jimmy Crosby was at its helm. And the band came. And over the years, I've kept that relationship with brass bands. And I have a great relationship with the Manx Youth Band. And then, over the years, been asked to compare some of the really big bands that have come to the Isle of Man. RAF Regiment bands, the Marines Band. I remember the band of the Gurkhas who ran along the promenade.
Wow.
Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
A good concert that I was able to compare in the Sea Terminal building. Wonderful, wonderful times. And then the Royal Yacht Britannia came. I think it was 1993. Prince Charles was on board. He came
Yes.
a visitor regarding the Prince's Trust. It was rumoured that Camilla was on board even then,
Ooh.
1993. And of course they had with them the Band of the Marines, and it's usual for them to play alongside the vessel in berth, entertaining the guests. And I was one of the unfortunate people not being invited on board, had to strain and listen from outside this building here, looking down from Douglas Head over the Victoria Pier, to see the Marines band parade up and down. And I've always admired in brass band with the Marines, as well as our own amateur bands here, the actual discipline and love of music that they give to their art.
Geoff, let's hear your second choice of music here now, which is On the Quarterdeck, and it's by...
And played by the Band of the Royal Marines, and you can see in that the swagger and the pride of the band.
On the Quarterdeck, that's the Band of the Royal Marines, and my guest on Memories and Music today is a bit of a landlubber, really. Have you ever been to sea for the Steam Packet Company?
Only for pleasure.
Only for pleasure.
Business meetings, but not in anger, no.
Not in anger. Your role now is as communications director for the company, which you handle the PR and everything else, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And a very big year for them, 175.
Fantastic year. You know, it's doubled the workload, if you like. But so glad am I to be a part of this special year. It could have been, any other year that I could have been about, but I'm here for this year. I'm delighted.
Well, Geoff Corkish, I mean, because you do come up to the radio station and talk about the Steam Packet a lot nowadays, but you're known best in the Isle of Man as a fantastic bass baritone voice and as a compere for so many different events. Your choice of music is very eclectic. When you're sitting at home, what would be the main, you might say, genre of music that you would sit and listen to?
Wide variety. I would have to say that one of my favourite styles of music would be classical organ music. I like listening to choirs. I like listening to jazz. I like listening to lovely, lovely arrangements of popular songs. I listen to anything providing it's done nicely.
Yes.
Or, in my view, done nicely.
Yeah.
And singers, of course.
Right.
I enjoy listening to. In fact, all styles of music.
Yeah. Well, so far in your first two choices, we've covered your very start at Ballacabeen and the introduction to music from Mr. Holroyd and the Band of the Royal Marines. Tell me about your third choice, Geoff.
Now, far from the discipline of bands, this music is almost sleazy and sexy and not down market exactly, but it conjures up to me, and I'll tell you why, far off exotic places. 2 or 3 years ago we were delighted, very pleased to accompany some friends to a holiday in Antarctica.
Wow.
Which began with a flight to Buenos Aires. And we stayed there for 3 nights in Buenos Aires. And whilst we were there, we had to go and see, and we asked directions to the best tango joint that you could get in Buenos Aires. We were sent there, a beautiful black and white decor place. We had a meal, and then we were treated to an absolutely fantastic tango show. And that told the story of how the tango developed, the sailors coming ashore, meeting with the ladies of the night and dancing. And it is a very sexy and personal dance. The music is so sleazy and relaxed. And yet, you know, for that to be done properly, there has to be a certain amount of discipline there. So we had a great time there, and I'll always remember this was the piece of music that I would associate with the tango. Perhaps lots of people would associate with the tango, certainly played there on the night. The holiday was tinged with a bit of sadness in that a friend of ours, we knew he was nearing his end as he did. He was one of the few parts of the world he hadn't seen, and we were delighted to go there and share that with him. But what a wonderful, wonderful time it was, and to see these people and the dancers and the girls.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Let's relive those memories again for you right now, Geoff.
Oh, yes. It's called La Composita.
Compasita, the tango, the dance of love. Do you ballroom dance at all, Geoff?
No, I was asked to join the latest ballroom dance, strictly ballroom
Yes.
that they did here, but unfortunately I was just about to go on holiday, so couldn't do it. But
Yeah.
always loved to see people dancing properly. I can dance my own style.
I've got to say
Couldn't
that
tell you what style it was.
Noel Kringle and his part and did a magnificent tango.
I believe so.
They
I
really
believe
did.
so.
My guest on Memories of Music today is Geoff Corkish. He is well known for his comparing, his singing, and for his representation of the art band Steam Packer Company. What about your family, Geoff? Well, let's come right up to date now. Your wife Muriel, she's very involved too musically, isn't she?
Yes, and through music I met my wife. She sang in choirs, I sang in choirs, we always sung in choirs. So we had a great togetherness there and music, which we still share. She enjoys music. She conducts choirs and sings.
Yes.
She had a better musical education than I have to say, but we both enjoy.
And your children?
Yes, children both enjoy, both sang in the guild, they both play the piano a little, and both appreciate music very much.
Okay.
They have to, living with me, they had to.
Have they continued, though? I mean, after sort of, leaving the roost?
No, not really. They don't partake in it as such, but
yeah.
a great appreciation of, I'm happy to say, all kinds of music.
Yes. Now, you've chosen as your last piece music that I'm not at all familiar with. You've surprised me. Tell me about your final choice in the program today.
Well, I've always been involved in music. I've always been involved in choirs as a solo, a chorister. And I joined the London Male Voice Choir 35 years ago about. That's where I met Dougie Buxton. Dougie Buxton then took me under his wing. He tried to teach me how to sing, and he had a wonderful appreciation of music. He was a wonderful teacher. He wasn't the clinical approach. He enjoyed taking a little liberty with music, certainly with the choir. I've never known anybody who could conduct a choir as he could, and I learnt a tremendous amount from him. Whilst it had to be correct, as I say, he had that liberty that he enjoyed in music. And the male voice movement is filled with men of all states of life and, who can bring people to tears and will expose their innermost feelings through song. Music has always played a large part of my life, still does, and will continue to.
Yeah.
It's a piece of music called What Would I Do Without My Music, and sung by the Morrison Orpheus Male Voice Choir.
Very
the words
appropriate.
and the music, tremendous marriage, and it sums up to me a parcel of my music, a big parcel of a life that I've thoroughly enjoyed and continue to enjoy musically.
Geoff Corkish, thank you for sharing your memories in music.
My great pleasure.
The Morriston Orpheus Choir and What Would I Do Without My Music? The final choice of my guest today, Geoff Corkish. Now, next week will be the last in this present series of Memories in Music. And rather appropriately, with the Manx Music Festival just around the corner, my guest will be the Honorary Secretary, and has been for quite a number of years now, Joan Hinnigan, MBE. Now, if you've enjoyed this series of Memories in Music, we'd like to hear from you. If you'd like to hear a second series, then please do write to us. Write to Roy Macmillan, Manx Radio, Broadcasting House, Douglas, Isle of Man. Or if you wish, you can actually email Roy, and his email address is roymacmillan@manxradio.com. From Bernie Quayle, thank you for listening.